then you used to be able to take your radios out to the yard with you, you know, so dudes would have they tape players. Back then you had tape players. Dudes would have a tape players hooked up to they radios that we call Super 2s and Super 3s, right? Only kind of radio you can get in prison, right? So bam, they would have a tape players hooked up to those radios, and they would take their radio out to the yard. So you would go out to the yard and you would hear music just playing all over the yard everywhere, right? All kind of different shit just playing at one time. So I remember going out to the yard and seeing dudes out there like that with their radios. Have dudes, you know, they had the perms with the perm rollers in their hairs, with their hair nets, and you know what I'm saying, the lokes. And back then they were still letting you wear your colors, so you'll see dudes out there with the blue and black Pendletons, or the red and gray Pendletons with the blue house shoes, and dudes was wearing their colors with the blue rags, red rags, all that, right? I believe they were still allowing dudes to dress like that in prison so they can identify who was who. So anyway, you'll see dudes out there on the yard like that, just G'd up, you know what I'm saying, laid out on the grass with a blanket laid out on the grass. This is on the field in the middle of the yard, right? With a radio right here and a homosexual laid on that blanket with them. This is on the yard. Okay? And this is when I first came into prison, 1991. This is the type of shit that I seen, amongst other things, right? And this was tolerated. But and again, like I told y'all, it was a lot of OGs that was already locked down for 15 years. You know what I'm saying? 20 years back then, off a 5 to life sentence. You know what I mean? That was obviously tolerable of this type of shit being, you know, going on. You feel me? So when I hear people expressing their opinions about what prison is now, you know, and saying how soft it is on the level 4s and all that, well, of course, the 80s was dangerous. The 80s was full of wolves. That can never be, you know, mistaken. You know what I'm saying? It was treacherous in the California prison system back then in the 80s. It was extremely treacherous. It was extremely political. But the elephant in the room is what they was allowing, you know what I'm saying, to happen. And it was gang members that was doing this shit that you will see openly with these homosexuals. Okay? And I used to always trip me, like all the young dudes that came in during the time when I came in, you know what I'm saying? Like, we used to just trip on that shit, like, damn. But we young, and you got all these OGs and shit that's been doing this far long before us, with these old ass prison numbers that's been down all these years and shit off of five to life. You feel me? This been going on. So when I hear people giving their opinions about how they feel prison is today, tell the war stories where all that type of shit was going on. You feel me? Because in comparisons from then to now, as far as that type of activity, that's out. That's out. And I'm not speaking like prison then or prison now is a good place to be at. You know what I'm saying? I'm not speaking, you know, to hype up, you know what I mean, this environment or none of that shit. Because I still tell y'all, don't trade your freedom to come live in no shitty ass prison cell, no hot stuffy ass prison cell, where you will constantly be ridiculed by people that's on the outside, right? That look back and look down off their nose at you. You feel me? Which is crazy because, like I said, if you acknowledge one, you have to acknowledge the whole. tell the truth. Because in comparisons to then, up until now, there's no homosexuals on the mainline level 4 general population yards. So how dudes choose to take care of business when it's time to take care of business. You feel me? For the people that's confused about DPs and prison yard removals, right? And another thing that I want to point out, right? They wasn't handing out life sentences to dudes that catch bodies on these prison yards in the 80s like they do now. You know, you can actually get a life sentence for stabbings now, right? You know, they got cameras all over the yards now, right? They got cameras everywhere. You know that, right? So that video footage of you stabbing somebody or beating the shit out of somebody, hey, and it's in high definition. They zoom in on you and all that in high definition, see every zit on your face, on your forehead, every tattoo. So, and you still have dudes like fuck it and still going on missions, knowing that they're going to use that video footage against you to help get you some more time, a possible life sentence, if the beating or stabbing is severe enough. You didn't have that in the 80s. You feel me? But yet and still, guess what? On these level 4 general population mainline yards, guess what? Anytime it's discovered that you got any bad shit on your name, ain't nobody protecting you. More than one person is going to find out. So even if you thought about the contemplation of protecting a rat or a person that got any bad smut on their name, guess what? You're going to get busted out because, again, you're not going to be the only one that know about that person. Paperwork get passed around. That's why people end up on 50-50 SNYPC yards. You like to lay up with men? Guess what? It's not going to happen on no level 4 general population mainline yard like how it used to happen in the 80s. Moving into the 90s, that shit ain't going to happen. The cleanup work on dudes that like laying up with other men, no matter who they was, how reputable they was from any hood off the main line, we sent them over there with their boy toys. While in the 80s, that shit was allowed. Niggas watching their homeboys laid out on the grass with another man with his shirt tied up in the front, playing oldies and shit. That's a fact. Nah, I ain't naming no names. Nah. To name one, you have to name them all, and it's a big list. Again, I'm not here to bust anybody out, but I am like I said, we stand on truth. And if people are going to give their opinions on what the level 4 general population mainline yards is, as far as the confusion between a DP and a prison yard removal, then I'm here to set the record straight on everything. Everything. We can date back to the 80s up until now. I go as far back as 91. I can tell y'all what I've seen. From then on, the things that I heard about, it can't be disputed by the OGs that's around that know exactly what I'm talking about. See, people, remember this. I'm in prison. I've been in prison going on 32 years now. I got 35 years of prison time to my credit, unfortunately. That's not me bragging. That's me accepting my reality for what it is. And that's a sad ass reality, because I would never be able to get all that time back. To be on earth and have the majority of your existence on earth incarcerated in prison is sad. That's why I come here to present nothing but the truth when it comes to this environment. And I refuse to let people, you know, that was, I mean, again, if, you know, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, you know, about whatever, right? But if we're going to express opinions about things, let's express opinions about all. You feel me? Because again, see, on a level 4 general population mainline yard, right? When you put in work, that's a new case. They taking you back to court at the local courthouse, somewhere around the prison in one of these cities, right? You're going to be charged with a new crime. You're going to start trial, all that. If found guilty, depending on how severe the shit was, you can get a life sentence for it. In which people was like, fuck it, let's go. If I get it, I get it. That's the level 4 mentality. When it's on and it's cracking, that's the mentality. Why do you think all the people that's on the level 4 yards is there? Why do you think a lot of these dudes that was once on these mainline yards ended up over there on the other side of the fence on the 50-50 S&Y PC yards? Why do you think all of them speak with so much bitterness and hatred for the other side now, when they once pushed and stood as strong as I do now before they got kicked out the culture club? There's a reason. And there's also a reason why these dudes have such ill will towards the people that's on the level 4 general population mainline yards. And it ain't just them PCs over there in the SNYs. It ain't just them. You have some gang members that feel the same way too. Anybody that's encouraging anybody to go to a 50-50 yard, they have bitterness in their heart towards people like myself for not violating any rules. They have bitterness in their hearts because I'm one of the guys that would have volunteered to get them off the yard. I'm one of the guys that probably would have volunteered to go on that mission to knock you down and get you off the yard. And they know this. So the first thing they gonna say, oh, they pushing politics. That's all they do on them level 4 yards. That's all they do. They trying to wreck homies and they trying to do this and they trying to do that and blah, 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 blah. Well, which is it? Are we trying to wreck the young homies and crash them out and get them more time? Or are we soft for not stabbing up every single thing? I'm trying to understand what those, ways of thinking is when it comes to, this subject matter. But they don't keep everything in perspective. They don't, give your opinion on the whole situation. For instance, I would question like, hey, if I was sitting with an OG, right, which I have said with many, right, I'm questioning like, hey, OG, so what made y'all allow certain homies to mess with homosexuals? And they did it in the open. Like, what allowed y'all to go for that? You feel me? Knowing that dudes that was doing that, you know what I'm saying? The homosexuals was moving from dude to dude. They would move from dude to dude, right? And as they did that, One dude to be in love with this homosexual. Then this dude started messing with this dude. Now this dude that fell in love with him is beefing with the side dude, right? But these dudes are gang members, which means they are still attached to their gang. Which means if these dudes get into it, that's going to bring these gangs into it. For the person that asked the question, Hustle Right, what up? Salute. Glad you was able to make the round table. He said, what made the homies clean up the yard? What I just explained right now, Brody. Great question, by the way. You feel me? It was a number of things, but that being number one. Secondly, it wasn't right. You feel me? It wasn't right. It wasn't, like I said, when I first came to prayer, I was a young dude. I was 18. And I used to go out to the yard and see this shit. You feel me? Hey, right? I used to see some strange shit. You feel me? And you know, we knew none of it was right. The young dudes used to look at that shit like, this is weird. You feel me? Like, this shit is weird, but these niggas is older than us and they've been doing this longer than us. I never heard nobody, you know, none of the old ones speak against the shit.